Two ships, 129 men, the finest the British Navy could send. They sailed into the Arctic to find a passage through the ice. Not one of them came back alive. For years, no one knew why. The ships had everything, the best equipment, the best crew, and enough food to last 3 years, and that food, it may be exactly what killed them. The year is 1845. Britain rules the seas, and one prize is still unclaimed. The Northwest Passage, a shortcut through the frozen top of the world. Whoever finds it wins glory for their country. So Britain sends its best. The commander is Sir John Franklin, experienced, respected, 60 years old. His two ships are legends, the Erebus and the Terror, reinforced with iron to smash through ice, heated by steam. They even carry a library, fine china, silver cutlery. This isn't a desperate gamble. This is the most advanced expedition in history, and the food supply is the crown jewel, because they're using a brand new technology, one that will change the world. Canned food, 8,000 tins, meat, soup, vegetables, sealed tight, able to last for years. In 1845, this is the future. No expedition has ever been fed this well. They wave goodbye to England in May. Two ships, full of confident men, sailing toward a shortcut. A whaling ship spots them in late July, anchored to an iceberg, waiting for a gap in the ice. That is the last time anyone in Europe sees them alive. A year passes, no word. That's normal. The Arctic is vast. 2 years pass, still nothing. Now people start to worry. By 1848, England is frightened. 129 men have simply vanished. No message, no wreck, no bodies, nothing. So Britain does something it has never done. It launches the largest rescue search in its history. Ships from the east, ships from the west, a reward posted. A fortune for anyone who finds them. And here's the strange part. They find almost nothing. The Arctic is enormous and empty. The searchers sail past the same ice for years, and the men they're looking for might be a few miles away. Frozen, silent. It will take more than a decade to piece the story together, and the clues, when they come, arrive in the worst way possible. A grave here, a pile of abandoned gear there, and eventually, a single sheet of paper, the only written record the crew ever left behind. Years into the search, a team finds a pile of stones on a frozen island. A cairn, a marker. Inside, a metal tube. Inside that, one piece of paper. And this note is chilling. Not because of what it says, but because it was written in two different moments. The first message is dated 1847, and is cheerful. All well, it says. The ships are fine, the men are fine, everything is going to plan. But there's writing crammed around the edges, scribbled in the margins. A year later, same paper, different men, desperate handwriting, and the second message tells a nightmare. The ships have been trapped in ice for a year and a half. They've abandoned them. Sir John Franklin is dead. 24 men are already gone. The survivors are leaving on foot, trying to walk hundreds of miles across the ice to safety. Think about that gap. All well. Then, in the margin, everything falling apart. Something went horribly wrong in that single year. Something fast. Healthy, well-fed men don't collapse like that, unless something was quietly poisoning them. Picture the scene. Over 100 men, already sick, stepping off their ships onto the ice, trying to walk to a trading post nearly 1,000 miles away. They didn't travel light. Search teams later found what they dragged with them, and it makes no sense. A heavy wooden boat, mounted on a sled. Inside it, books, silverware, silk handkerchiefs, slippers, curtain rods, a writing desk, dying men. Hauling a boat full of teacups across the Arctic? For a long time, this seemed like madness. Why carry silver forks when you're starving? But some historians see it differently. These weren't stupid men. This was the behavior of men whose minds were failing, confused, impaired, not thinking clearly. And that points back to a suspect, something that damages the body and the brain at the same time. One by one, they dropped in the snow. The line of men got shorter. They died in the order they walked. Not one of them made it. The last survivors got maybe a few dozen miles, and then the Arctic swallowed the rest of the story. Until science dug it back up. Jump forward more than a century. The 1980s, a team of scientists goes north with a bold plan. Early in the expedition, 3 sailors had died, buried on a frozen island before the disaster fully hit. Their graves were known, so the scientists dig them up, and what they find stops them cold. The permafrost had preserved the men almost perfectly, nearly 140 years underground, and their faces are still there, eyes open, skin intact, frozen exactly as they were the day they were buried. It's haunting. But it's also a gift, because now the bodies can be tested, and the tests reveal one number that changes everything: lead. The men's bodies are flooded with it, levels far beyond anything normal. Lead poisoning does terrible things. It causes confusion, weakness, bad judgment. It makes you tired, irritable, unable to think. Suddenly, the strange behavior makes sense. The cheerful note, then collapse, the teacups on the sled, the men walking to their deaths hauling silverware. These were the actions of poisoned minds. And now the obvious question: where does that much lead even come from? The scientists looked at the one thing all the men shared: the pride of the expedition, the food. Remember the 8,000 cans? The cutting-edge technology? In 1845, canning was brand new, and no one had perfected it. The tins were sealed by hand, with lead solder. A worker would run melted lead along the seams to close them, and the work was rushed. The company that supplied the food got the contract at the last minute. Thousands of cans, very little time. So the soldering was sloppy, thick beads of lead. On the inside of the cans, directly touching the food, every meal the men ate from those tins, for months, then years, swallowing tiny amounts of lead with every bite. It built up slowly, in their blood, in their bones, in their brains. The very thing meant to keep them alive the longest was poisoning them the whole time. Now, I have to be fair here. Scientists still argue about this. Some say the lead came from the ship's water pipes, not the cans. Others say lead alone didn't kill them. That cold, starvation, and disease did the real work, and the lead just made everything worse. The honest answer? It was probably all of it at once. A perfect storm. And the shiny new food technology was right in the middle of it. There's one more piece, and it's the saddest. The people who actually knew what happened tried to tell everyone, for years. The Inuit of the Arctic had seen the men. They had watched them starve and stumble across the ice. They knew where they fell, what they'd been reduced to. They told the search parties plainly, and Britain refused to believe them. The stories were too grim, too undignified for British heroes. So, they were dismissed as rumor. But the Inuit were right, about all of it, and they were right about where the ships ended up too. For over 150 years, the Erebus and Terror stayed lost. Then, using Inuit testimony as a guide, searchers finally scanned the seafloor. In 2014, sonar found the first ship. In 2016, the second, both sitting upright on the ocean floor, almost exactly where the Inuit said they'd be. So what killed the Franklin expedition? Not one thing. The ice trapped them. The cold and hunger wore them down. And the food, the pride of the whole voyage, may have quietly poisoned their minds while they starved. The most advanced expedition ever sent was undone partly by its own cleverness, by trusting in new technology no one fully understood yet. There's a lesson buried in that ice. The newest, shiniest solution isn't always the safe one. Sometimes the thing meant to save you is the thing you should have questioned. If you like stories where history hides a mystery, this channel is for you. Next time, 9 hikers, 1 mountain, and a tent cut open from the inside. Subscribe so you don't miss it.